Right, here we go. Another week, another guest, and I'm so excited to have Sonya Highfield with us here today. As always, I'm going to go ahead and start with some kind of a digital marketing tip. I had a whole thing ready to share with you guys today, but then I started to talk to Sonya about Facebook ads and Facebook boosts, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. I'm just going to cover that really quickly. And so the question was how to get the most out of a Facebook ad or a Facebook boost. And of course, you want to always make sure that you have your settings set up so that you've got the right age group, the right gender, the right interest levels, the right area if you're a local place. So make sure you have that set up, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is a really great way to make your most out of a Facebook boost is to consider this. Put up a post at some point that's going to be something you like. It has all the elements of a great Facebook post. It has a compelling image. It has some interesting content, interesting text, and make sure it ties into some kind of a call to action, a link to go back to, a contact me or whatever. So this is not a boost. This is just create your post. And it's a good one. And so you know that maybe it's a question and a lot of people are going to answer the question, whatever it is. Your job now is to try to make more people comment on it and share it and like it. And even if that includes a strategy such as I use with my clients in my accountability groups, is that we will direct message each other and say, hey, I just put up a post. Do you mind sharing it or commenting on it if it aligns with you? And often it will. And if you're looking at your insights, you will see how that increases the visibility of the post. Do that for a week or two. Get some good content on it. Try to keep the conversation going on it. And then once you've done that, if you can and it might not be that post, you might have to come up with something else if it's not getting traction. But whatever post that you put up that gets traction, after a week or two, go ahead and boost that one for $5 or $10 to your demographic. And that's going to give you a little bit more bang for the buck. I'd love to hear if anybody tries that out. I'd love to hear how it works out for you. It works out really well when I do it for my clients, and I'd love to hear how that works out. So now I'm going to, I love talking about that stuff. I could talk all day long, but let's hear from Sonya. Sonya Highfield is the owner of Real World Creatives, realworldcreatives.com. She is an intuitive business and mindset coach who works with creative entrepreneurial women to build professional, hold on, I moved my thing here. I was trying to be so sly and move my screen. There we go. She works with creative entrepreneurial women to build profitable businesses doing what they love. So that's you guys. She's Bostonian, born and bred, and lives with her husband, her awesome husband, and loves all things cozy. I'm going to tell you a couple more things about Sonya. Sonya's superpowers are staying calm and problem solving. Love it. And I wanted to also share that her book recommendation is Profit First, which you guys, this has been coming up in my life for like the past 2 months. I have been hearing about this book everywhere. So I'm super excited that was something that Sonya liked too, because I'm going to look forward to talking to her about that when we do that book in January. So I'm going to switch the camera. There we go. And Sonya, you're on. Thanks for coming today. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me.
Yes. What do you got to tell us today about wealth mindset?
Yeah, so I have been sharing this recently. So I do talks around the country and on podcasts, and I've been talking a lot about money mindset. But I recently have been sharing more about wealth mindset. And something that is important for your audience, my audience, everyone to know is that I get pretty much all of my talks and a lot of my content as intuitive hits or divine downloads, as we'll call them. And so that's where a lot of my ideas and content around wealth and using your energy and connecting, money and spirituality come from. So that's just a little like behind the scenes kind of where this all stems from. And so when I started getting these intuitive hits around a wealth mindset, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, because money mindset, if people aren't familiar, is how I define it. It's your conscious and subconscious thought patterns and beliefs. And so how that influences how you think and feel about money, and, you know, your ability to make money and save money and how you spend money. It's influenced by your family and friends and where you grew up and experiences that you've had. And that all kind of puts together your money story. And so people may have heard the terms like a lack mindset or an abundant mindset, right? Mm-hmm. But then I started getting this information around a wealth mindset. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting, because that's really what we all want. We don't want to just be stuck in, in a money mindset. We really want to be moving towards a wealth mindset. And so for me, what that means and what I've kind of received around this are these 3 pillars of a wealth mindset. And so I'll share those with you now. Awesome. And then we can kind of dive in and discuss if you want. So I have my notes here. So the first pillar is that money doesn't buy happiness. And we know that, right? It's like, okay, duh, like, right? We know, Sonya. But really, when we think about it, so many people are putting money first and have been taught that you need to work hard, you need to sacrifice, right? You need to achieve. And so they put happiness on the back burner. But what I know for sure is that when we feel good, more good things happen. Right. And so when we put our happiness first, when we put joy to the forefront of how we're living and working, that attracts more good things, that attracts more opportunities and clients and income and things that feel good and build your life from the inside out, right? Because really, you can have a ton of money and still be real unhappy. But our society kind of gets that backwards sometimes. I agree.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, so really having that as your first pillar of you have to feel good first, you have to be happy first, and pursuing your happiness in equal or even more effort than you pursue money. Knowing, believing that the money will follow. Mm-hmm. And I think for just a lot of people, that's an uncomfortable kind of idea to really accept and implement. But also really tapping into how money contributes to your joy, right? And to your comfort and to your fun and the impact that you want to have in the world. So really putting happiness at the forefront and believing that will attract more of the wealth in all areas of your life.
That's so interesting. And I just finished going through the You Are a Badass at Making Money in my Rise Above the Noise Facebook group. And going through that was a recurring message, is what you're saying, which was kind of new to me. And then, of course, it's like, well, what is happiness, right? So that's a whole separate thing. But that like focusing on joy and your life and how it really does make the difference. Right. I know a lot of people with a lot of money are not very happy.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people with a lot of happy and not so much money.
Yeah.
So it's nice if they can both happen together. And I agree. It's the mindset. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. It can be simultaneous.
Yes. Cool.
So the second pillar of this wealth mindset is that broke doesn't help broke. Mm. And there are so many beautiful people I see out there lowering themselves and keeping themselves at a lower level of, again, joy and income and, self-sacrificing because they think that's helping other people. But the truth is that us raising ourselves up, making more money, pursuing our passions and our missions, that helps raise everyone up, right?
True, yes.
And so, there's just so many women who I come across who I see doing amazing work in the world. And they're still broke, thinking that they're going to help other people, and whether it's broke on a financial level or kind of a self-love level, whatever, there's all those different areas of our lives where we can have an empty cup, right? And that's really not helping anyone. And us feeling more joy, making more money is also not hurting anyone. And I think just a lot of times those really lovely, thoughtful women out there think that they're going to be hurting other people by charging for their services, by saying, I'm sorry, you can't afford me, right? They think that they're hurting other people, but really you're hurting yourself and everyone else if you're kind of staying at that low level of, income, right? And really knowing that the more you serve, the more you should bring in, right? And then in return, I'm assuming that your audience, like my audience, is full of lots of good, giving people who want to help the world. Yes. And so you're going to be able to give more to the causes that you care about and the charities and the nonprofits, and you're going to be able to have a better and bigger impact by allowing yourself to raise up and to make the money that you need, right? And then can share with others too.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yes. Yes, yes, yes to all of that.
And then the third pillar is legacy. And a lot of people these days are about, how do I make as much money as possible right now? How do I, live luxuriously? And, you can't take the money with you when you die, right? And so it's kind of like the instant gratification. How can I get it all now? How can I spend it? How can I, and what I want to be sharing with people is, how can you create a legacy with your money? And so thinking longer term and thinking about your savings and thinking about, your retirement fund as well. A lot of entrepreneurs, it's that's not even a thought.
Right.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
And whether or not you have kids, right? A lot of people think, legacy means, I have to, pass my money down to my kids or whatever. Well, okay, not everyone's going to have kids, but how can you continue impacting the world with the things that are meaningful to you right now, right? So whether it's empowering women or, helping the environment, how can your money long-term keep impacting those things for generations? So that's just something to consider, is kind of okay, yeah, you can have a 5-year plan, but what about, your 50-year plan? What about a 500-year plan? Where really you're making the most of your life right now by thinking longer term about your impact and how your money is going to contribute for generations to come.
That is so interesting. I have not heard that part in anybody's talk ever about money mindset. That is fascinating. Do you have an example or what you think of when you think of legacy?
Sure. So, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here because I have a bunch of stuff scribbled down about this. So yeah, thinking about, maybe you leave a scholarship fund for art students.
Oh yeah.
Right? Maybe it's about donating a big chunk of money to an ocean cleanup charity, right? If that's what you're into. Thinking again, going back to family, I think there's also a little bit of a negative connotation around the word trust fund, right? Trust fund babies. But isn't that a beautiful thing that you created this wealth and that you're able to pass it on so that your kids or your grandkids can have an easier time at things, right? Like, that's a really amazing thing. And I think a lot of us have put kind of, this dirty, word trust fund out there. And it's like, ooh, that's, privileged, greedy, right? But it's not. It's really such a powerful thing if you can be providing for your family for generations to come.
That's amazing. Those are fantastic. So what kind of thing, like, do you have any so those were good suggestions for the legacy. What are some of the practical things that you guide people towards, if you don't mind sharing? Like in your group, you have a Facebook group, right? What is the Facebook group called?
The Expansive Women's Network.
So you're sharing stuff in there all of the time. What would be something you would share in that group?
Yeah, so I share a lot of practical things about business building, and a big piece of the wealth mindset, but putting it into practical, how to use this right now kind of terms, is looking at your prices and seeing if they reflect your goals and your reality. Because what I see is that a lot of people pull prices like out of thin air, or they just take prices that other people are using and think that they're somehow magically going to provide for the lifestyle that they want, when in reality they're not connected intimately with your own desires and bills, right? Your own expenses. So we're really getting cozy with your own numbers and understanding, okay, if I want to live XYZ kind of lifestyle, in a certain area, in a certain house, whether that means you're living in a tiny house and you travel around, the States, or you want to live in a mansion by the beach, right? Like, we have different versions of wealth. But understanding your own needs and your own numbers and setting up pricing structures that reflect those. So that's a lot.
So that's a lot, right? And that's a lot from my head. Like, I'm just so not a numbers person. Is that what you help people with? You do one-on-one and group coaching. Is that correct?
Yes. And I have a free pricing guide that I can share with everyone too. I believe it's just realworldcreatives.com/pricing-guide.
Okay.
But I can share the link for that for sure. And really, it doesn't have to be hard. And I can tell you that I basically failed every math class I ever took. Like, I am not a traditional numbers person. But when it comes to, and I had to really work on this, right? So it's so interesting that I do money mindset coaching and help people with their prices, because that was my biggest struggle, right? So I had to get really curious about it and figure out, like, why is this challenging? How can I overcome it? So let me get my thought back on.
So you coach people one-on-one, or you also do like group coaching, right? Where people work on these things together?
Yes. So, so that's a big thing, is getting comfortable with your numbers really does usually start off with the mindset, right? Because numbers are actually like just a very basic, stagnant, mark on a page, and they themselves are not intimidating. But it's the mindset around, I have to crunch numbers, I have to do math, I have to, figure this out, and I don't know how. That's where people get tripped up. And so, like, part of my superpower is coming in and being like, okay, like, here's some numbers on a page. How can we get you comfortable with looking at them, right? How can we get you more comfortable with logging in and checking your bank account, right? And so it's shifting our feelings around money and around numbers so really that you're able to be empowered and make good decisions in your life. That's what it comes down to, is like, this is blocking you from feeling good, right? So we know that's blocking you from receiving other good things.
Yes.
So let's feel good about it. Let's make it a positive experience. And let's have you really use your numbers so that you're able to go out there and build the business that you want, to have the life that you want, to have the impact that you want, and to feel good doing it all the way through.
Awesome. Wow. Everybody needs you. I need you. That's fantastic. Tell me about, you had mentioned earlier when we were talking that you're starting your own mastermind. I know I run accountability masterminds around digital marketing, which have been so powerful. Tell me about what yours looks like.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this because it's a new format for me, and it's really combining like all the things that I love to work with women on. So it's called the Elements of Success Mastermind, and it's a 3-month program, and it's using your core truths to start off, to figure out who you are, what you're here to do, how you work best, what you want to do in the world, and using different tools to do that. So we're going to use astrology and human design and numerology and any other tools that people like for guidance, for tapping into those truths, so that we can say, okay, here's your truth. Here's what you know you're here to do. Here's what you know you need, right, to function well in the world. And then we can say, okay, what's standing in the way of you really honoring and claiming those truths and building your business based on them, right? So whether it's you need to adjust the offers that you're putting out there because you're just kind of doing something that someone else told you and it's not resonating, and so you're not getting clients, right? Figuring out how you can stand up confidently in your fullest power, in your truth, and then align the rest of your business with those and get support, right, to implement, to figure out, okay, now that I know for sure these truths about myself, how can I create my goals for the year? How can I create my offers and my pricing? And have kind of like a checklist for myself of, okay, am I hiding, right? Am I being scared? Or am I really standing in my truth and putting things forward that feel good? Am I marketing in a way that feels good? Am I using my true voice and my true superpowers, right? And getting support to set up those goals and then to start moving through them.
Awesome.
So it's very cool. It's going to be a really interesting mix of spirituality and mindset work and business strategy, because I think they all need to go together.
Right.
And it's very customized. So that's why I like the format of a mastermind, so that you're able to get support and input and resources and collaborate with a variety of people who are all doing things a little bit differently, right? There's no blueprint, but we can be on the same page and support each other through like these different phases and, putting out new offers and really saying like, okay, here I am. Here I go, 2019. Like,
right.
Let's do this, and feel like you have this amazing group of women at your back who are there to support you.
That's the key, right? That's the support. I find that too with the groups that I run, the digital marketing accountability. It's just having somebody that you're accountable to, so that you don't go through your day thinking nobody will notice if I slack a little bit. It's okay if I slack a little bit. Nobody's going to notice. But when you're in a group like that and you have to have a conversation and you kind of carry those people with you to help you be the better version of yourself that you committed to. I mean, you committed to a program, so you might as well live up to it.
Yeah, and the thing that I saw with a lot of women is that there is a lack of consistency in running their business.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that comes from not being in alignment with who you are and how you're running your business, but also that accountability and support piece.
Right.
It's like, yeah, sometimes it's scary to show up on a daily basis, right? And if no one is checking in on you, then it's really easy to, fall off. And then people get frustrated. And it's like, oh, I didn't make enough money this month. It's like, well, you weren't consistent at all. So how can we aid you in getting there?
Right. Same with me. I'm like, when people are like, well, I didn't have any business, I'm like, but you didn't get that email out and you didn't post on Facebook and nobody knew you were waiting for their business.
Right.
Yeah. And in my case too, it's a lot of times people need, I have the most amazing clients. They're heart-centered. They're giving amazing service or products. And if they're not doing the marketing, right, then they're not helping those people that really need their help. And to your point, if they're not living their best self, if they're not feeling abundant and know where they're going with what they're doing, it's harder for them to show up.
Absolutely.
And to help those people. So yay to that. Thanks. So let's just kind of wrap up and let people know where is the best place to find you. We mentioned your Expansive Women's Network. Is that what it was called on Facebook?
Yes. Yeah. The Expansive Women's Network is really where I'm at on a daily basis. So it's the best place to kind of connect and engage.
Okay.
And the other thing is Instagram, which is also Real World Creatives.
Okay.
And otherwise, you can go through my website anytime, realworldcreatives.com, check out what's going on there, and shoot me a message.
That sounds great. And you had mentioned, I always ask people if they want to make any particular offer to listeners. I'm just going to look this up. Maybe you already remember. So you're offering a free 30-minute call for money mindset coaching.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to get off. When we get off this call, don't hang up. I'm going to make my appointment.
Okay, good.
With you. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share or tell people about before we wrap up?
Sure. I guess so. One thing that I like to pose to my clients as we're thinking about, the year ahead and goals is, what is your big dream? If you're picturing yourself, 5-10 years from now, what's your ideal life? What's going on? And how can you make that a reality starting now? So how can we bring those things to the present and, not push them off to the future, but allow yourself to really have that dream life right now?
Beautiful. That's perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sonya. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to set up my appointment with you.
Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks so much for coming. Now I have to figure out how to do this.